Okay, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this beautiful Tuesday morning as we are studying together Perashat Tazria. Perashat Tazria, of course, begins with the laws of Tum'ah and Tahara of a lady who gives birth. That's what it means, Tazria. She will conceive and have children. And the Torah tells us about when a lady gives birth, how she becomes impure. And this is the first that we are introduced to the concept of people becoming tameh. People could become impure. We saw last week how certain animals are pure and impure. And this week we now move on to people. In yesterday's class we saw how why the Torah first talks about animals and then man. Okay, but today we move on to another way that people can become tameh, another impurity, and that is tzara'at. Okay, tzara'at we know is leprosy. Our parasha talks all about the different forms of tzara'at that could come on a person's body, could come on a person's clothing, could come on a person's house. Okay, and of course tzara'at is what we call in English leprosy. However, our rabbis tell us that this tzara'at is a very different tzara'at than the one that we have today, the physical type of leprosy. This tzara'at was not a physical disease, it was a spiritual disease of something that the person was doing wrong, and Hashem is trying to send this person a message. Our rabbis in the Gemara have a few different opinions, Masechet, I believe, Arachin, a few different opinions of what exactly somebody did to deserve tzara'at. Of course, everyone knows the most famous one, and what is that sin? What sin brings upon a person leprosy? Of course, Lashon Hara, speaking negatively about other people, okay? So today we're going to get into this topic over here of negative speech. We're going to talk a little bit about Lashon Hara. And really, the word Metzorah is really two words in one. Metzorah is Motzi Ra. That's what it means. It means saying bad about other people, to bring bad about other people. Now, it's important to note that Lashon Hara, gossip is wrong, whether it's true or false. Many times people say, but Rabbi, I didn't lie. It's the truth. Well, of course, that's what Lashon Hara means. You're spreading the truth about somebody that's negative. Okay? Now, if it's a lie, it's a separate sin called Motzi Shemra. But that's literally what Lashon Hara means. Lashon Hara is when it is the truth. Okay? There is a story in the Gemara, and the same story appears in the Midrashim in different versions. And the story is about a peddler. There was once a rochel, a peddler who was going around and he was announcing, who wants life? Who wants life? Life for sale, 50 cents a life. And one guy comes over to him and he says, this guy, a rabbi, Rabbi Anai, he hears life for sale. He runs over, he says, I want life, give me, right? I'll buy, how much is it? I would like this elixir of life, this potion of life. And the fellow says, oh, for you, Rabbi, this is not for you. You don't need this. He says, what do you mean I don't need it? Because I'm a rabbi. I want it. Give it to me. And finally the guy says, okay. He pulls out a Tehillim and he opens up to chapter 34. And over there it says, Mi ha'isha hafetz hayim. Who is the person who wants life? You want life. You don't have to buy it in the stores. You don't need to buy it at the drugstore. It's not expensive. It's free. I'll give it to you right here. It's a pasuk. David HaMelech says, you want life. Mi ha'isha chafetz chayim, ohev yamim l'rot tov. You want to see good days, good years? Netzor leshoncha mera. Watch what you say. A person is careful on what they say. Usfatecha medaber min ma, and making sure your lips don't speak evil. That is a good way to ensure a good life. Of course, this is very interesting because it's not only talking about on a physical level. Physically, we know how many times people mess themselves over because of something that they said, right? Sometimes we say something and then we regret it a second later. It could be at work. It could be with a spouse. How many relationships were broken because of words, right? You know, many people, when they have to send a message, they prefer to do it over WhatsApp than to do it through text message. You know why? Because in WhatsApp you can delete. It's true. In WhatsApp, there's a delete option. Delete for me, delete for you, delete for everyone. Right? How awesome is that delete button? And you hope that no one saw it. And quickly we delete. Text message. Oh shoot, why did I send it through text? I can't delete it now. WhatsApp is a great item, you can delete. However, in life, we don't have a delete button. You can't delete something that we said sometimes, we regret it. And really, we have to be very, very careful in what we say. And really, to succeed in this world, one has to think before they speak. And one will be very wise if they sometimes remember this very important lesson. However, this peddler is teaching Rabbi Yanai something a little bit deeper. The pasuk says, "Netzor leshoncha mera usfatecha medaber mirma." Watch what you say, and then look what he says. Sur mera va'aseh tov. And then he continues and he says, "Stay away from bad." Sur mera va'aseh tov, and do good. What does that mean? Stay away from bad and do good. That means stay away from bad and do good. There are two types of mitzvot. Every mitzvah will fall under one of these two categories: the do's and the don'ts. So, as an example, feel free to add in the chat. You could write in your answers. What's a positive commandment? Give me an example of a do. Okay, if you're driving, please don't. Okay, but what's an example of a do? What's a positive mitzvah that we're supposed to do? Okay, give it a couple of seconds. Right, there's 248 of them. Okay, so do's include respecting parents, giving tzedakah, helping people, putting tefillin, wearing tzitzit, okay, hearing shofar, birkat hamazon, beautiful. These are all the do's. Then we have all of the don'ts. Don'ts are easy ones, right? Don't kill, don't steal, no adultery, no avodah zarah, right? By the way, Shabbat, which one? Which one is Shabbat? Shabbat is both, right? Shabbat's both the do's and the don'ts. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat HaKadesho is remember the Shabbat. That's all the do's of Shabbat, lighting candles or the meals and the prayers. And then the don'ts of Shabbat, right? Kiddush. And then the don'ts are all of the averot of Shabbat. Shamor et Yom HaShabbat HaKadesho. Don't put on fire, don't cook, don't write, etc., etc., etc. Okay? David HaMelech says, to be a good Jew, it's not enough to do one and not the other. Right? If a person's going to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to do nothing my whole life. I won't break Shabbat, but I won't keep it either. I'll do nothing. I'm not going to kill, but I'm not going to hear shofar. I'm just going to stay passive my whole life. That's not good. They're doing half, right? They're staying away from the bad. That's good. But you still also have to do the do's. Or the opposite, a person's going to do all the mitzvot. A lot of people do this one, right? They do all the mitzvot, they learn and they pray, and they also do things that they shouldn't. That's also no good. In life, we have to have, if you want to lose weight, the nutritionist is going to tell you, you got to eat healthy and you got to stay away from the bad food. Okay? So these are the two steps. David HaMelech says, Sur mera va'aseh tov. Okay, now let me ask you a fair question. Lashon hara, is it one of the mitzvot? Is it under one of those two categories? You better believe it. Lashon hara is under one of those two. So why does David HaMelech in Tehillim specify Netzor leshoncha mera? If you want life, if you want olam haba, you know what you need to do to get olam haba? What should he continue and say? Do the mitzvot and stay away from the averot. But he doesn't say that. He first prefaces and says, stay away from gossip and do the mitzvot and stay away from the averot. Why does he specify out of all the 613 that mitzvah? Out of all of them, he tells you, don't do this. Don't speak gossip. You don't need to tell me that. It's already, I know not to do it because it's already in the 613. It's part of the sur mera. It's already staying away from evil. He didn't have to tell me and specify that I should not speak gossip on its own. The same way he didn't specify Shabbat, he didn't specify kosher. Why all of a sudden is he specifying this one? Why is Netzor Leshoncha in its own category? The Chafetz Chaim asks this question. Okay, who wrote the book Chafetz Chaim? Who wrote it? Anyone know his real name? You forget that he had a real name. Rabbi Israel Meir HaKohen. Okay, Rabbi Israel Meir HaKohen. Rabbi Israel Kagan. Very good. Rabbi Israel Meir HaKohen. Okay, he wrote a book called Chafetz Chaim, which is where he discusses all of the laws of Lashon Hara. He wrote another book, very similar, called Shmirat HaLashon. 2 books. What's the difference between Chafetz Chaim and Shmirat HaLashon? One talks about the laws, and one talks about the ideas, the musar aspect, okay? In the book Shmirat HaLashon, he answers this question that we addressed of why does David HaMelech specify Mi ha'ish shechafetz hayim, and he specifies the mitzvah of netzor lashon chamera, stay away from gossip. And he answers as follows, based on Chavot HaLevavot. Chavot HaLevavot is a very important book written around 800, 900 years ago by a Rishon, by a medieval scholar, by the name of Rabbeinu Bahye. Rabbeinu Bahye writes in the Sha'ar, in the chapter called Sha'ar HaCheni'ah, which means submission. Okay, what does it mean to be submissive? To yield to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay? Well, he has a whole, many chapters discussing what it means to be submissive. But whatever it is, that's the name of the chapter. And in this chapter, chapter 7, in this gate, chapter 7, listen to what he writes. I'm reading to you from not a nice Hasidish Maisim stories. This is a book from a Rishon. Ve'amar ehad ken ha-hasidim. He quotes over here a great Hasid. This is before the Hasidic movement. This is, again, 900 years ago. So if he's quoting a Hasid, we're talking about a really pious person. He's quoting a Hasid. Harbe bnei adam yavou layom hashbon. You're going to have many people. They're going to arrive to the day of judgment. Ukshemarim lahem ma'asehem. And when they show them their deeds, yimtzeu besefer zechuyotam zechuyot shelo asu otam. They're going to all of a sudden, they're going to get a whole paycheck of all the mitzvot they did. Yes, I did learn. Thank you for giving me that one. Yes, I did. Yes, beautiful. Very proud of that one as well. I prayed a lot. Yes, I did visit people in the old age home. That is me. Hazak Baruch. Pat myself on the back, right? And all of a sudden, you're going to see on the list a zechuyot, a merit that you didn't do. One second. I didn't build yeshivas. I didn't have money to build yeshivas. That's not me. You sure that's mine? You got the right Mizrahi? But they're going to tell you back. Asa otam. So and so did do it. Asher diber bachem vesiper begnutchem. So and so who spoke gossip about you did that mitzvah. And all of their mitzvot come to you. Vechen, and similarly, when a person will realize that there's certain things that he did that he's not getting rewarded for, they can say, hey, where's all my reward? They're going to be told, you lost it. Why? Because you spoke about so and so. And we have over here something very scary, very frightening musad, and that is that a person could lose their merit because they spoke about other people. And if someone speaks about you, it's actually a big opportunity because it means you're going to get all the reward. And similarly, v'chen yesh mehem. Similarly, he says, there will be cases. They'll find in their book of debts, sins that they didn't do. They're going to say, we didn't do this. Yomar lahem. He said, it's true, you didn't do it, but we added it to your account anyways. Ba'avur ploni uploni shedebartem bam. Because of so and so who you spoke about. כמו שנאמר, והשב לשכננו שבעתיים אל חיקם. And therefore says the Chavot HaLevavot, something very scary. And that is that when a person speaks gossip, they have the ability to forfeit all of their mitzvot, and they're going to inherit all of the averot of the person they spoke about. You know, David HaMelech writes in Tehillim, chapter 69. He says the following pasuk. He says, pasuk Yud Gimel, Yasihu bi yoshvei sha'ar. Over here, David's complaining. He says, God, the people are talking about me all day long. David was a very big political figure, and you can imagine, what does the news do all day? They talk about him. Like today, the news talks about only the important people. Yasihu bi yoshvei sha'ar. David's complaining. He says, they're talking about me all day. They're making fun of me. Unginot shotei shechar, and they're singing about me. But you know what's very interesting? Look at the pasuk. Let's explain word for word. Yasihu bi yoshvei sha'ar. The ones who sit at the gates speak about me. And the ones who sit at the bar, shotei shechar unginot, they're singing, making fun of me. And David over here is telling us, the location of those who are talking negatively about him. He's not just saying that they're talking about him, but he's saying where they are when they talk about him. Why? Why is David telling us their location? Are we going to go look for them? Are we going to go see if they're really there by the bar or sitting there at the entrance of the city? Who cares where they are? But based on what the Hafetz Hayim taught us, based on what the Havot Alavavot taught us, David is saying, says the Shla Kadosh, if there are people that are talking about me are tzaddikim, then I have no complaints. Because at least the bright side is that I get all of their mitzvot. But the problem, says David, is that they're not only talking about me, but they're also wicked. They're low lives. They have no mitzvot to give me. It's a lose-lose situation. They're talking bad about me, and I'm not getting any of their mitzvot. They're sitting all day at the bar. They have no mitzvot. They're sitting all day twiddling their thumbs at the entrance of the city. And therefore, says David HaMelech, this is my complaint. Very, very powerful. So now we come back to the Pasuk in Tehillim. And what is David HaMelech telling us? Netzor leshoncha mera, sur mera v'aseh tov. David is reminding us, you want chayim, you want life in the next world he's talking about. You need to do two things. Sur mera v'aseh tov. But there's one very important proviso. And that is that you also have to stay away from Lashon Hara. Because you could do all the mitzvot in the world, and you could stay away from all the averot, but once you speak about people, all of their mitzvot are going to be taken away. Once you speak about people, all of the averot are going to come to you. So what do you gain that you spend your whole life doing good and staying away from bad? You accomplish zero, because anyways the mitzvot are going to be lost. So the condition to keep the mitzvot, the condition that your averot should stay the way they are minimally, is to netzor leshon chamera. You know, the Shla himself writes that there's a very nice segula at the end of the Amidah. Many people do this, okay, and that is at the end of the Amidah, before taking the 3 steps back, they say a pasuk from the Tanakh that begins with the first letter of their name and ends with the last letter of their name. Okay, so here as an example, in the back of this Sidur, they have it. Many Sidurim have it. So if your name is Eliyahu, so you have to find the pasuk that begins with Aleph and ends with Vav. And you say this pasuk before you take the 3 steps back of the Amidah. Pasuk over here for Eliyahu, Ashrei, Aleph, Ashrei, Eliyahu, right? Aleph. Ashrei she'el Yaakov be'ezro, Sivro al Adonai Elohav. Vav for Eliyahu, last letter. Okay, Ariel, okay, nice name. Okay, that's over here, Aleph Lamed, Eliezer, all Aharon, Elisheva, also women. Okay, all of the women's names here, that's the next page. Aviva, Ahuva, Ora, Adel, Aviga. Okay, I mean, you get the point. I'm not going to go through all the names. I mean, there's many names. Okay, okay, very nice. Nechama, Tamar, beautiful, all these names. So find your name, and it's a nice custom. Why do we do this? Why do we do this? So it's quoted in the name of the Shla. It's a segula to not forget your name on the final day of judgment. So before the second Yulet Atzon, say your pasuk. Very good. Moiz. Mizrahi shemesh al mevo'o me'ulal shem Adonai. Okay, beautiful. Very nice pasuk as well. Starting with a mem, ending with a hey. That's for Moshe, Menashe. There's Matitya. Okay. Fine, very nice. Now, the reason we hear is very, very interesting. Let's just repeat what we just said. It's good to say your pasuk, because when you get to the heavenly court, just in case you forget your name, so I can't even finish. It just sounds so odd to me. You're gonna forget your name? When is the last time, okay, you go to the doctor's office. Okay, is there a Mizrahi Ariel in the room? Right? Who is that? Is there? Oh, it's so weird. The guy has Ariel. Oh my God, it's me! Oh my gosh, it's me! Oh! Who's gonna forget the name? Did you ever? I don't know. People call me by my name a lot of times. Okay, I don't know why we need a segula, and not only that, but it's like, what's your name, sir? My name, shoot. One second, I remembered this one before. My name, Elohim al domi lach. You can remember your pasuk more than your name? What exactly is the segula? So the way they explain it based on this chafetz chaim that we said, a person's going to go to Shamayim. Unfortunately, sometimes a person is going to go and he's going to have other names there with him. All the people that he spoke negatively about. So he's not going to come up by himself. He's going to come up him. He's going to come up his neighbor who he always badmouthed. He's going to come up maybe his in-laws who he always spoke about, right? He's going to come up about all the people. And the segula is, who is the real us? So we have our pasuk. Now today, what I want to talk about, I know we already spent a lot of time on this, but I want to talk about really is the next part of today's class, and that is the why. Why am I going to get all of that person's averot? Why am I going to lose all my mitzvot to them? It sounds like just a punishment. You know what? It's like, sometimes as a father, sometimes my son does something that's inappropriate, and I get so angry, and I don't even know what the punishment should be, so I just make up the most arbitrary punishment that's so irrelevant. Like, he was he was bothering his sister on the Shabbat table. You know what? I'm going to break your Lego. What in the world does the Lego have to do with him bothering his sister? The punishment always has to match the crime. Right? And sometimes, Baruch Hashem, I have a very good wife who reminds me of that all the time. She makes sure that the punishment cannot just be some random punishment. It has to always be on point. So if it was something about what they did, you have to match it. Okay, fine, very good. It sounds like over here, God's just being, a little bit, I don't know if I could say unfair about Hashem. It just sounds very random. Is there something rational here of why I should lose my zechuyot to somebody that I spoke about, and why I should get all of their averot? Okay? So this is what we're going to try to address right now. Really, to understand this, to answer this, we have to go back to understanding the reason of why people in general speak gossip. Why do people like to talk gossip? There's nothing like a good piece of Lashon Hara, right? You see two guys talking, oh, what's the hak? Give me the scoops, right? We love hearing about other people. We love talking about other people. Why do we do that? Why do we speak so freely and happily and quickly about other people? The reason is that in life, okay, ga'ava, for sure arrogance, but also in life, we need a very healthy self-image to succeed, right? We know this. One of the basic human needs is that we need to feel significant. Rav Hirsch even points out that it could be that the reason Esav came out the way he did is because the Torah says, Vayehav Yitzhak et Esav ki tzayid befiv. Yitzhak loved Esav, for he would feed him. Verivka ohevet et Yaakov. And Rivka loved Yaakov. And Rav Hirsch says, maybe in a certain level, Esav sensed this, that his mother loved his brother more. Sometimes in life, when we don't get the attention, when we don't get the feeling of love, of importance, when we don't feel needed, when we don't feel like we are important, so people do crazy things. Many times you see kids that when they don't get the love and attention that they need from their parents, they start acting out and they start going and they do the wrong things. And what they're doing is they're desperate for attention because they need to know, I exist, I matter. And they're willing to do whatever they need to do in order to get that recognition. The same way we need food to live, we need to feel important. We need to feel significant, right? So a lot of times, right? The phrase, right? Bad love is better than no love. That's why many times teens go into the streets and they pick up bad habits and they pick up bad friends, even though it's dangerous and they know it's bad. But at least they're giving me something that I need. I need food. I need oxygen. I need recognition. And what an important obligation we have as parents to make sure we give that recognition to our children. And really the difference in life between tzaddikim and reshaim, between the people that are righteous and people that are not, is where does that feeling of significance come from? Some people only feel good when they have the biggest house on the block. Some people only feel important when they have the biggest wedding of the year. Some people only feel important when they're making the most amount of money. When that is the source of our feeling of importance, so that means we have a lack of priorities. We're prioritizing money, we're prioritizing physicality. And when a person's importance only comes from that, so that person is heading in the wrong direction. Ultimately, what we really try to do in all of Judaism is remind ourselves that the reason I should feel important, the reason I should feel that I am needed in this world is not because of, the biggest house or the nicest car or the wedding that I had. Because ultimately those things are not always in my control. Another person could have maybe more money than me. Another person could have, better looks than me. Those are not things that are in my control. I should feel my feelings of importance should come from spirituality. When I realize that I'm serving my Creator, that I'm doing something important, that I was given my mission. And ultimately, this is a very important line, you ready? Ultimately, sadness comes when a person has lost their sense of direction in life. When a person forgets what's their mission. Right? When a person doesn't know why they're here. And really, when a person doesn't know why they're here, and that's why they're sad. So a lot of people feel, you ready? A lot of people, I saw this yesterday, very scary line. The Saba Mikelim says, some people think they're sad in this world, but it's okay because at least I'll have the next world. Says the Saba Mikelim, no. If you're not happy in this world, you're not going to get Olam Haba either. And what that means is because if a person's not happy here, that means because they've forgotten or they don't have a proper understanding of what they're here to accomplish. And so it makes sense. If I'm unhappy, I don't know what I'm here to do, then there's no way that I could inherit the next world either. Because I'm not achieving what I'm meant to achieve. But either way, coming back to our point, in life we all need a strong sense of self-esteem, etc., etc., etc. And there are two ways to build my self-esteem. You ready? Two ways that I can feel good about myself. One is the right way, and the other is the wrong way. The right way is to build on my strengths, to notice what my accomplishments are, to value in my own eyes what I'm achieving. Okay? That's the right way. The wrong way is that if I'm not feeling good about myself, then all I need to do is make sure that I'm better than you, and then I'm lifting myself up. Right? Two ways to lift the person's self up. Ben Ish Chai brings a beautiful mashal. There was once a rabbi who was walking the street and he saw two boys that were measuring which one's taller. And each one's trying to go, and all of a sudden one of the kids goes and he digs under the other kid so that the other kid is lower. And the rabbi went over to the two boys and he told them, never lift yourself up by putting other people down. Never make yourself feel bigger by knocking those around you. And a lot of times, that's precisely what we do. A lot of times, when we're not feeling good about who we are, a lot of times, right, we come home from work, and we had a bad day, and we're feeling very icky, feeling very ugly inside. And what do? In order to make ourselves feel good, we have to knock. We have to put other people down. We have to call other people names. We have to start yelling at our spouse. We have to start yelling at our kids. Because if I could put them down and they're zero, then I'm great because I'm better than them. And again, that's the wrong way to lift myself up. I should lift myself up by working on myself, by recognizing who I am and what I am and what I've accomplished. Many times we see people that love making fun of avot. You ever saw this one? Many times as a teacher, I would have students that would say things like, Rabbi, if you ask me, I think Yaakov Abinu was a little bit delusional, right? Yeah, so it's right. Has v'shalom, scary statements, but they speak very freely about the greatest people in history. I don't know. I think Esav wasn't so bad, Rabbi. Right? Why do we do that? Why do we love to knock the leaders, the great people, and then the wicked people? The answer is because misery loves company. And if I could show you that even Yaakov was dishonest, And I don't feel so bad when I don't pay my taxes. Because look, Yaakov was also a crook. Right? Unbelievable. So this is a very powerful musar. Right? So again, some people, their etro could only be kosher if yours isn't. My wedding is only as nice as yours was a disaster. You know, and again, I don't know who's making up these stories, but there was once a Rabbi walking with his students, and he saw in the park the different kids playing, and he noticed the swing, he noticed the slide, he saw the seesaw. So he told his Talmidim, he said, what's the difference between the swing and the seesaw? In both of them you go up. And the students were taken aback by the question. They said, good question, I don't know, what's the answer? And he said, because so the rabbi said, the swing, you could go up on your own. But for the seesaw, in order for you to go up, your friend has to go down. That's not the right way to go up in life. Again, a very powerful musad. I don't know that we should stop going on the seesaw, but there's a very interesting halacha when it comes to the metzorah. When it comes to this guy with tzara'at. Our rabbis say that a metzorah is metameh. He impurifies others the same way a met. The same way a dead body. We know that a dead body, if you touch it, you become tameh. Not only that, but even if you go in the same house as a dead body, you become tameh. What's very interesting is that a metzorah has the same exact halachot. A metzorah, even if you don't touch him, if you're in the same room, which is why we send him outside of the camp. Right? Where do we send him? Mechutz lamahaneh. Because if you're in the same roof as the guy, you become tameh. In other words, our rabbis say, metzorah hashuv kemet. He's considered like a dead person. But I think what the rabbis are telling us may be a little bit deeper than that. Not only on a halachic level of purity and impurity, but the metzorah is like a dead person. Meaning he doesn't have a self-existence. He doesn't have an authentic existence. He only exists because other people fail. The metzorah, the gossiper, the one that speaks negatively about other people, their whole lives, they only live, they only succeed, they only flourish, they only go up because other people go down. And that is such a powerful lesson when it comes to speaking about other people. Do I feel good because of my own strengths and virtues and accomplishments? Or do I only feel good because I'm able to knock down all the people around me? This guy who has sara'at, and this is why people speak gossip a lot of times. We put other people down because then I feel good about myself. Oh, that rabbi, he's not so good. Oh, that guy in shul, not so religious. That person, you heard what happened with his wife? The shalom bayit stinks. Oh, you heard him and his kid, they don't talk to him. Oh, you heard what he did when he was away. You heard what she said, right? And we do that. Why do we do that? Because then I feel good about myself. That means that my existence in my own eyes has very little value. The only reason I feel like my life has any worth is because I could knock other people down. Other people fail, and that's what I feed off of. I live off of their mistakes. And now maybe we can already start to get a sense of understanding why a person who speaks gossip inherits the sins of the other person. According to what we just said, it's very beautiful. Because I only succeed because of your sins. Your sins are the oxygen that give me life. So it's only fair that I should pay for those sins. It's only fair that those sins are things that I should inherit as well, because after all, they were my lifeline. They were the things that kept me going. They were my engine. Very powerful idea. You know, in English, there are two words that sound very similar. The first one is status. Something that we spoke about in the past, by the way. Status versus stature. What's the difference between status and stature? Again, they sound similar, but they're very different. Status is how people view me. Status is the idea of being socially accepted. Stature is how I view myself. Status is where I stand. Stature is how far I reach, right? And both are very important in life. We need to work on status, right? We need to work on stature. But unfortunately, we live in a time that too much emphasis is placed on status and too little on stature. That means today everybody's focused and interested on making sure they have good status, right? What's my status? What's your status? I want to marry into status, right? We like status. And status, again, is very nice, it's very good, it's very important to have status, to have a good reputation, to be recognized publicly. These are all good things, these are all important things. But ultimately, status is only good if it is in addition to stature. But once status replaces stature, it's very, very, very dangerous. Our rabbis tell us, actually in a very interesting Gemara, let's say a person had to narrow it down to one or the other. Which one is more important, status or stature? In other words, the Gemara asks the following question. Puts it like this. Who do you give an aliyah to if you only have one aliyah to give? Here are the two types of people that you have to give to. The first guy is a Talmid Chacham, Mamzer, a scholar, but he was born from an illicit relationship. Okay? The second guy is a Kohen Gadol, Am Haaretz. He's the high priest, but he's a fool. Doesn't know any halacha, right? I don't know how that happens. How do you get such a guy? But again, the Gemara is never interested in the case. The Gemara is interested in the concept. And I think the concept that the Gemara is trying to bring out of here is that if you have two people, one of them has all the status in the world, Kohen Gadol, but zero stature, no knowledge. And the other one has all of the stature, Talmid Chacham, but no status. He's a mamzer. You know who we give to first, says the Gemara? We give to the Talmid Chacham mamzer. Because ultimately stature surpasses status. Again, ideally, we need both. But if we had to narrow it down, we could only pick one or the other. Stature is so much more important than status. Because again, status is how other people view me. And that's okay. But what's more important is how I view myself. That I should be authentic, that I should have an existence of my own. We live in such a fake world where everybody's focused and interested in making sure that other people value their life. How many times people will go into debt, will lose out on the quality of their own lives just for one night, a 4-hour wedding, to make sure that they can impress and other people. How many will go on a Pesach trip that they can't afford, or they'll go on a vacation, or they'll go to they'll move somewhere for the summer. Again, some things that maybe are beyond their means. But it's important for our status. And again, status is good, but not if it's at the expense of stature. Not if it means losing the quality of life that I have and the shalom bayit that I have with my wife. And people sometimes don't appreciate this enough. But it's as long as people think that we have money, as long as we could put on a big show and a wedding, and we'll suffer for the next 3 years, we'll be in debt, we'll even steal if we have to, we'll be dishonest in business, because status is more important. This is a person that has lost their priority in a way. This is the same mistake as the person who speaks gossip. This person is giving priorities, giving focus to what other people say, to what other people think, more important than how I see myself, right? And in Judaism, there's such a big emphasis on this idea of making sure we are authentic, making sure that what we do is real. It's not just a show. It's not just what people think. You know, the Ariel says that a person could be Mr. Chesed. We quoted this Ariel a lot. He says the guy's going to have so much chesed, he does so much kindness for the world, Hatzalah, SBH, helping organizations, doing all of the things. He's going to go to Shamayim and say, okay, where's my reward? And says the Ariel, it's all going to come down to one question. And they're going to ask this man one question, and if depending on how he answers will determine how much reward he gets. They're not going to ask him, show us all of your, how many hours you stayed up at night to help people. They're not going to ask him, show us all the times, all the money you gave to different organizations. You know what they're going to ask him, says the Ariel? How'd you treat your wife? What do your kids have to say about you? What do your parents have to say? The people that know you best. Because it's nice that you could be there in public and smile. You know, I was once in the synagogue and I was talking, and then a guy called out arguing on me. He, says, Rabbi, you're wrong, it's not true. And I was very embarrassed, but of course I didn't say anything. A guy comes over, he says, Rabbi, wow, you are so strong. How you bit your tongue, how you controlled yourself. Kudos to you, good for you. Hazak, you're brilliant. How you were able to really control yourself, how you were able to control what you responded. You're so humble, Rabbi. And I said back to the guy, I said, that's not humility. When everyone in the shul is watching me and seeing what I'm going to say back, it's very easy to not respond. Of course, what am I going to say? I'm going to yell at the guy, everyone's watching the rabbi. Of course you're not going to respond, right? You know what's true greatness is if my wife alone in my house embarrasses me, then I don't respond. That's true humility, right? Because that's stature. That's who I am. That's me giving myself and my own life its own value, as opposed to what people think publicly, my image. A lot of times that's nice, but that could be fake. That could be for status, right? So this is, I think, a very important lesson. Just to add one more point over here. We know, Torah tells us last week, about 4 animals that are exceptional. What do I mean exceptional? We know that an animal, to be kosher, has to have 2 simanim, split hooves and chew its cud. And most animals either have both or have none. Lion has none. Tiger has none. A bear has none. A cow has both. A goat has both. A sheep has both. Then you have 4 animals, the Torah lists it, 4 animals that have one and not the other. It's very interesting because till today, 3,000 years later, we have yet to find a 5th. Okay, so it's a nice proof that people like to bring to the veracity of the Torah being written not by a man but by a God. Because if the Torah was written by man, how would man 3,000 years ago know this? That there are only 4 animals. Was he in Antarctica? Did he go to America back then? Did he go to Australia? If it was written by a man 3,000 years ago, they didn't have an airplane to fly all over the world to check it out. So this is one of the nice proofs that the Torah is divine. Again, I don't know that if they find a 5th, does that mean that we throw the Torah? Chas v'shalom, doesn't mean anything, right? But till today, we only have 4. Okay, nice, interesting proof. But either way, our rabbis tell us, and what are the 4 quickly? The camel, the rabbit, the hare, and the pig. Okay, 4 animals. The Gemara tells us that the 4 animals correspond to 4 galuyot, the 4 exiles that as Jews we had to endure. We know that we went through the galut of Iraq, the galut of Paras, Persia, Iran, the galut of Yavan, Greece, Hanukkah, and the galut of Edom, Rome. That's the one that we are in right now. The Midrash says each animal corresponds to another one, and it goes through proving each animal. Of course, what matters for us, at least right now, for this class, is the galut that we are in. Which animal does this exile that we're in correspond to? Anyone know? This exile corresponds to the exile of, to the animal of, this exile corresponds to the animal of the pig, right? The pig. Why the pig? The pig, actually, it's the only of the 4. Again, these 4 animals have one and not the other. The camel, what does the camel have? The camel chews its cud, but it doesn't have split hooves. So too the rabbit, and so too the hare. The pig is the opposite. It's the only animal in the whole world that has split hooves, but doesn't chew its cud. And actually, our rabbis tell us that the pig is symbolic of Esav. We know Esav would go around and show everyone, look. Esav would say, look, I'm so religious. Esav would show his father. He would ask his father very complicated questions. Dad, how do you give ma'aser on certain salts, things that you don't have to give on? So Esav was what we call a faker. Esav showed on the outside one thing, and when he was behind closed doors, he would do the worst sins. Avodah zarah, gilui arayot, shevichut damim. This is the pig. The pig shows you, look, I'm kosher. Look at me. Split hooves. Okay? And on the inside, that he doesn't chew its cud. The pig, in other words, is only interested in status. Esav was only focused on status. It didn't matter that on the inside he didn't have all of the strengths, because it doesn't matter who I am. What matters more is what people think I am. That's the only thing that really matters. And the rabbis tell us that this is actually the sin of the second Beit HaMikdash. We know the second Beit HaMikdash was destroyed because of Sinat Chinam. Their problem was Lashon Hara. Their problem was, again, like we've spoken about, they've given too much emphasis on the outside. On the outside, they looked very religious, the Jews, right? When it comes to the first Beit HaMikdash, we know what they did wrong. They did Avodah Zarah, they did Gilui Arayot, they did Shevichut Damim, the 3 cardinal sins, idolatry, adultery, and worship, and murder, And we know what they did wrong. Their sin is like the camel. Their sin is like the rabbit. It's on the outside is their flaw. They don't have the split hooves. And it's actually not so bad when that's your flaw, because then you know what there is to fix. But in our generation, we have kosher outsides, but very unkosher insides. Today, it's all, again, a show. Everyone's showing the world that their marriages are great on social media. We show everybody that we're doing the right things, but we're lacking the tochen. We're lacking the quality. We're lacking the inside. We have no stature, unfortunately, today. Now, rabbis tell us that Esav ultimately can only fall into the hands of a descendant of Rachel. And we know about Rachel a little bit. Again, we're short on time. But just quickly, Rachel is somebody who spent her life working on this midah of tzeniut, of being modest. She saved her sister, right? She gave her the signs and she didn't tell anyone. And by the way, even Leah never found out, according to our sources. Remember when Reuven comes and he says, Mommy, here are the flowers, and Rachel says, can I have some of the flowers? And Leah says, first you take my husband, and now you want my son's flowers? And our commentaries are like, whoa, time out. Who took whose husband here? You, Leah, took her husband. But says the Ben Ish Chai, Rachel never told Leah. She was tzanua. She was secretive about her accomplishments. Why do we tell people about our accomplishments? Because people should know, right? We want people to know. Well, I'm going to ask a simple question. What about the fact that we know? The fact that I know that I did something great. Is that at all have value? People have to know. What about me? I'm a people. Well, it depends if we consider ourselves as someone. If our lives only have meaning because of how other people perceive them, we have no intrinsic existence. Rachel doesn't tell anyone because she knew, and it's enough if I know, she was someone that had authenticity. Rachel was authentic. Rachel was real. Our rabbis say, you want to defeat Esav, you need that midah of Rachel. It's only Rachel with her realness, not about what other people say, not about me gaining or me growing vis-a-vis other people. Says Rabbi Miller, if you want to be great in life, do one act of kindness a day that nobody knows about. Because once you tell people, that's very status category. That's Esav. If it's really you, then it's enough if you know. If it's really you, you be tzanua about it. Of course, we have to tell people, very close friends, near and dear to us, about what we're doing. It's important to feel good. We need a strong support group. For sure, it's nothing wrong about flexing and bragging to friends and spouses. We should tell them. We should feel good. But, says Rabbi Miller, at least have that one thing that we can do, that we know it's enough if I know. Because I'm a somebody, and I value my own existence. And I don't need to tell other people about what I'm doing. And it doesn't matter if you're good or if you're bad. My life has value because I value it through its own accomplishments. And this is going back, just tying it in to what we spoke about in the beginning. The gossiper, the person that speaks gossip, only has value depending on how other people see his life. And as long as your life stinks, then my life can be good. But without putting you down, there's no way that I could really grow on my own right. So I think these are amazing thoughts on our topic, on our motzira, on our metzora, to ask ourselves, maybe we're living too much for others. It's time to start being real. It's time to start living for ourselves. Maybe that's a lesson that God was trying to teach us in Corona. I don't know. But maybe part of Corona was you're doing too much for the world. You focus too much on who you're inviting to your wedding. Have 6 people weddings. Have 10 people weddings. Don't forget who are the most important people in your life. Don't worry about having a seder with all the cousins. And I'll tell you, the nicest seder I ever had in my life was 2 years ago. The first seder of Corona, it was just my wife and my 3 kids. And it was so beautiful and it was so powerful. There was no status in that seder. I didn't go to shul. I didn't speak. I didn't give no speech. No one gave me Hazaku Baruch, Rabbi. None of that. But that was a real seder with my family. That was a little bit, maybe that was a beautiful takeaway from Corona, that we realized that it's time that we focus more on the family, more on the inside, less showing off for the outside world. Either way, we'll stop over here, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. God willing, we will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.